issues and strategies for implementing it in your small business. My name is Karen Dubois, and I'm going to be your moderator for this session today. Before we get started, I'd like to ask the organizers, Tracy Walter from the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce, Brian Schiffman from the Vaughan Chamber of Commerce, and Charles Banfield from the Region of York to say just a few words of welcome. Tracy, over to you. Tracy, you there?
You know what, why don't I...
Oh, you're going to jump in? Awesome.
Yeah, that's okay. And then we'll go to Charles after Tracy. Why don't we do that? So, hi, everyone. I'm Brian Schiffman, the President and CEO of the Vaughan Chamber of Commerce. It's great to have you with us. I appreciate that some of you are wearing masks right now on camera. Look, I wanted to thank the Regional Municipality of York for enabling us to do this series. Charles and your whole team, you've been great to work with, so we appreciate that. Give a shout out to the other chambers in York Region who are supporting us in this endeavor. So it's great to have their support. Also the York Region Business Coalition, all pulling for what we need to cover in this series. It's going to be a very interesting series starting with today. So I look forward to seeing many of you throughout the various iterations that we're going to cover. There's no question in my mind that right now as regional businesses are struggling with the challenges of reopening, a series like this provides a lot of value. Businesses are looking at ways to, how do I protect myself, my employees, and my customers? How do I, the new operating protocols I'll need, especially to do with mask guidelines, and how do I generally, how do I pivot? Because we're all needing to pivot right now. Many businesses need to go online, if not in whole, at least in part. So at this point, I just want to give a quick shout out to Karen Dubois. Thank you, Karen, for really being the guts behind the operation. And to my partner in crime, good friend, Tracy Walter from the Newmarket Chamber. Great working with you. And I'm going to pass it over to Tracy now.
I'll just add that I'm excited to be collaborating with so many great partners. We have to work together on the road back to economic recovery, so this is a great start. And together with our other chambers, I see Lauren Davey from the East Gwillimbury Chamber on the line. I'm not sure if any of our other chamber leaders are on the line, but together we can cover some of those key challenges businesses are facing right now. We can access experts and facilitate conversations that we all really need to have right now to navigate through these challenges. So I'm thankful that all of you joined us. I'm happy to have Karen Dubois taking the lead on this. As Brian said, Karen's no stranger to innovation, having been part of Venture Lab, part of Innovate Barrie, and on the Newmarket Smart City Council. So she's a great person to take the helm on this. And we hope that you'll provide us as well with some of the ideas of what you want to hear in terms of information and insights for your business right now. And with that, I will turn it over to our partner, Charles, from the Region of York.
Thanks, Tracy and Brian, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. As was already stated, my name is Charles Banfield, and I'm the Manager of Strategic Economic Initiatives at Regional Municipality of York. On behalf of York Region, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar. This is the first installment in a series of webinars that are designed to provide a roadmap to post-COVID economic recovery and to help business owners and operators across all sectors get back to business. Large number, as we're all aware, a large number of companies across the region have been significantly impacted by the pandemic. And our new reality dictates that economic and societal well-being requires that we all embrace public health policies and considerations at a level that's unprecedented in living memory. So the goal of today's seminar and the ones that'll follow is to provide information and resources that will help businesses navigate the current conditions and to thrive in a post-COVID economy. So today's agenda is focused on strategies to help small businesses comply with the recent regional instruction to require face masks or the appropriate coverings to be worn in enclosed public spaces. And I'd like to close with thanking the Newmarket and Vaughan Chambers of Commerce and the York Region Business Coalition, and of course Karen Dubois, who have all partnered with us in delivering and developing and delivering this webinar and the series to follow. So thank you all once again for joining us today, and back to Karen.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. We are going to just touch on a couple housekeeping issues before we get started. First off is there will be a 15-minute Q&A at the end of the session. So we encourage you to use the chat box. You don't have to wait to the end of the session to do it, but send me the questions as they come across, as the speakers share their information, and we'll get those addressed in the time period from 9:45 to 10 o'clock. Okay, and then if you also have any suggestions for topics you'd like to see this series addressed, again, just send us that note in the chat box. We are recording the session, so just heads up on that. And we will be following up within 24 hours. We'll be sending you an email that has a copy of the presentation materials from today's session, the link to the recording, and a short survey, just to make sure that we're on point with what we're doing and to help make sure that we're aligned with your interest areas. So with that being said, I'd love to dive in. Our first speaker is Dr. Leon Genesov from the York Region Public Health, and he's going to be sharing just some really good information about the mask mandate. So Dr. Genesov, would you like to get started, please?
Thank you very much, Karen. Let me start with my screen here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to be talking about the mask mandate. First, I just want to point out quickly the visual image we're starting with. So you notice the worker here wearing a face mask to protect both herself and customers, and the open for business sign. Really want both to go together, the protective measures and open for business. I just want to have just a word of caution though, as we move into stage 3, this is the time when we're going into higher risk settings. They're going to be opening up the higher risk settings. So it requires particularly diligent attention to the entire range of hygiene measures, including masks. So the Regional Municipality of York endorsed a recommendation from the York Region Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Kurji, to issue an instruction requiring operators of enclosed spaces in York regions to have a policy in place to prohibit persons from entering premises if the person is not wearing a face mask or a covering, subject, of course, to the appropriate exemptions. And it's important to mention here that the instruction is to be applied in good faith, and in York Region is going to be used primarily as an opportunity to educate people on the use of face coverings, combined, as I said, with other ongoing public health practices. And York Region Public Health will be focusing on education rather than enforcement. But I do want to mention that individuals, businesses, or organizations that do not comply with the requirements may be fined under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. So it's important to know that we will commence with an educational and supportive approach though. So as of July 17th, business owners and operators in York Region must have a policy in place to prohibit people from entering if they are not wearing a face mask or a covering, and customers, employees, and visitors who enter an enclosed public space must wear a face mask or covering. And these instructions will remain in place until Monday, November the 30th. So the instruction applies to the following establishments. So any premise or portion of a business that's used for the sale of goods and services and includes a mall or similar structure which may contain multiple places of businesses, churches, mosques, synagogues, temples, and similar places of worship, community centers, libraries, art galleries, and museums, and so on, community service agencies, banquet halls, convention centers, other premises that are used for open houses or presentation centers or real estate purposes, and then common areas of hotels, motels, and other short-term rentals, and then also concert venues and theaters. So individuals who are not required to wear a face mask or covering are children under 5 years of age, individuals with medical conditions, anyone who has trouble breathing, anyone who's unable to remove the mask without help, anyone, of course, is unconscious or incapacitated, please do not put a mask on them, and anyone wearing a face covering that would inhibit the ability to breathe in any way, such as during moderate or intense physical activity, such as running or where the activity would preclude its use, like in swimming. And then also anyone who requires accommodation under the Ontario Human Rights Code would be exempt. It's important to remember that there are many types of face masks available. Each type of face mask has its place, but not every face mask is appropriate for day-to-day use. And the intent of the mandatory mask requirement is to include non-medical masks, for example, those made of cotton, those that have pockets inside to insert filters, and disposable single-use masks. So wearing a non-medical mask is something that you do to protect others in case you have COVID but don't know it, and it may also help protect you from others who have COVID. I just want to add also that a face shield is really not a substitute for wearing a face mask or a face covering. Here's a poster from the Public Health Agencies of Canada with a list of dues. So you can have a look at that when you get the presentation, or you can get the poster from Public Health Agency of Canada and a list of the don'ts. You can see here on this visual. So leave that up for a moment. And finally, face masks are not a substitute for other oops, there we go, sorry. Face masks are not a substitute for other proper public health measures, such as plexiglass or other barriers, environmental cleaning, or monitoring your health. Wearing a mask adds an extra layer of protection for you and for others. Please show kindness to people not wearing masks, as there are a variety of reasons they may not be wearing it, including medical masks. And there, again, there may be a range of reasons people may not be able to wear a face covering, so please be kind to folks. And indoor and outdoor settings, face masks or coverings do not represent a substitute for proper hand washing practices, and physical distancing is of at least 2 meters. And then for additional information, there's more details on york.ca/mandatory masks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Genesov. I think as we're moving to phase 3 officially tomorrow, the more all our businesses can support this cultural shift with our customers and clients to wearing masks will help keep us in phase 3 and move us forward beyond. So your role as a business owner, as an organization, is so critical to helping us move forward. Thank you so much, Dr. Genesov. And now we're going to ask for Mary D'Addario and Michael Croxon to share their experiences. They're both business owners, 2 very different types of businesses, to share their experiences with implementing the mask mandate in their businesses. So Mary, would you like to kick it off?
Yes, thank you, Karen, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about Nature's Emporium's experience during this. We were actually deemed an essential service right from the beginning, so we have not had a minute to even think about next steps, so we've just always had to jump in with both feet. Having said that, we actually implemented a mandatory mask policy across all our locations on May 25th. So we've been doing this for a couple of months now. And we did that out of an abundance of caution, obviously, but we also had some cases at our Maple location that caused us to close the location for a couple of weeks. And that experience led to a lot of stress and anxiety with our staff. And it just brought them another level of security if they felt that they were protected in another way, both between themselves and the customer. Our goal has always been to provide a safe work environment for our staff and also for a shopping experience for our customers. It was not met very positively from a lot of our customers. We had a lot of backlash about it. We've had death threats. We've had aggression against our staff. We've had to hire outside security firm at all of our locations to stand alongside of our screeners at the doors. So again, we've had a unique situation in the sense that we've been experiencing it for the past 2 months. But having said that, after the implementation from York Region, where 3 of our stores and our warehouse is located, we've actually reduced that stress from the customers. And I feel like everybody's so far, I've spoken to all the management at the locations, and customers are complying. We've removed the security guard from the door to now walk the floor. So he's just making sure those that cannot wear the mask are maintaining the 6-foot distance from our employees. And so far, so good. So I was happy to see that the municipalities and the cities mandated the mask policy. It kind of just reassured us that we were doing the right thing for our staff. You know, it's been very stressful on them. You know, we worry about their mental health. They're having to take time off. During the beginning of this, we were actually down 140 employees chain-wide, whether that was due to departments closing because of restrictions on businesses or just simply they were too afraid to work. But, you know, it's getting there. We're starting to feel a bit of normalcy again.
Mm-hmm. Wow, Mary, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Can I ask one quick question? Are you supplying masks for your customers? I know you did.
We were.
Yeah.
We were always supplying, and we've actually even given a 1-week grace period after. So the region implemented last Friday. We will, as of Monday, because one of our locations is in Burlington, and they implemented this past Monday as well. So come Monday, we will still have them available, but there will be a charge for that because that's been an additional cost for us as well.
Right. Okay. And so you're finding, since the implementation from the region, that the number of negative comments and incidents has decreased. So that's good to know.
So it's very good to know, especially for, again, our staff, because it's been disheartening for them, especially.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Michael, you own New Roads Automotive, which is a very different type of business. Perhaps you could talk a little bit about what you've done to implement the mandate in your business and what you're seeing. Oh, Michael, you there? Oh, I think we might have lost him. Michael?
I'm with you. You got me now?
There we go.
Yeah, sorry. That's the classic Zoom faux pas, not to unmute. I apologize. Thanks for having me this morning. You know, Mary, if it's any consolation, as a customer of yours and somebody with an anxious, what I define as an anxious spouse around this whole COVID thing, she took great comfort in the fact that you guys implemented a mask policy when you did, and would defer to your store versus other stores because you had the mask policy. So, you know, for the anxiety that your associates understandably felt, I think there was a benefit to your loyal customers, or some of your loyal customers, who appreciated what you did.
Thank you so much.
Kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you.
So yeah, so we're a group of 7 automotive dealerships who, like Mary, were deemed an essential service, at least on our service side from the outset of these things. So we've been sort of learning as we go and implementing on the fly since about March 15th. We did take the decision early on to shut our stores for 2 weeks, which was not necessarily commonplace in our industry, but between our concern for the safety of our associates and their level of anxiety early on in this whole evolution, we thought it was the best thing to do. And it cost us a whole lot of business, but, you know, we still maintained that it was the best thing to do. And then gradually, you know, our service departments were deemed an essential service from the outset. And, you know, it's not the conversation today, but we had to figure out in a whole heck of a hurry how to get things done efficiently and safely there, and then still try to sell automobiles digitally and in people's driveways as opposed to our showrooms, because they were sold and there was a lot of information and misinformation going on in and around what we were allowed to do and what we were not allowed to do. But thankfully, as Mr. Ford opened up the province gradually, our showrooms were allowed to open, I'm going to say in early May, I believe the timing was. So so we've been sort of bobbing and weaving as this thing's gone on. And you know, most will recall at the outset of these things, the health authorities were telling us that masks were not required and masks were not necessary. And I guess that was in large part to preserve a run on masks so that the people most in need of them could get them, and the frontline workers could get them. My research always indicated that masks, would help the situation. So we've actually been encouraging our associates to wear masks in our departments or in our respective dealerships, basically since April. Now, encouraging and mandating are two entirely different things, and so we sort of, I'd say, have about a 50% compliance if people were in a customer-facing area. And while our primary focus has always been and will be maintained as the safety and comfort of the associates of the New Rose Automotive Group, the other message that I thought was important to convey, and Mary, I think you did by implementing your policy, was you got to give consumers the confidence to come into your facility. And whether it's the optics of wearing a mask or the realities of what it does to prevent the spread of the virus, to have your staff wearing masks, I think gives those consumers that confidence. So in all my communication to our associates, and one of the important things that I've undertaken during this time is to over communicate. It's always about how do we give our customers the confidence to shop with us, whether that be online or whether that be in our showrooms. So we've got the policies. We've got the policies baked. They're in those attachments I sent you. You probably don't need to show them, Karen. But the other thing is we have a very strict sort of protocol for anybody entering our facilities. So they're greeted by somebody outside. They're asked to fill in this disclosure form, why they're here, if they can't wear a mask, why not? To answer your question, Karen, we will provide masks to somebody who forgets theirs. But like Mary, the mandate or the bylaw or whatever it was that required masks was a real, in my estimation, a real blessing for our associates and for the community at large, because it took the onus off the business owner and put it, where it belongs, on the politicians, I guess, to take the heat for it, so we can fall back and say, hey, this isn't us, this is the law. Yeah, so far so good. So we've had zero incidents across our 7 locations since last Friday. I'm happy to report.
Michael, I have the form that you mentioned up on the screen so people can see it. I noticed you ask for contact information. Is that intended to help with contact tracing should there be a connection somewhere?
It's yes, primarily that. It's also a good way for us to capture information for follow-up purposes, which is something we do in our business religiously. So
right.
But yeah, for sure it was for contact tracing purposes.
Okay. Mary, there are some people who can't wear masks, and particularly in the setting of Nature's Emporium. How do you approach that? Because you can't challenge them on why they're not wearing a mask. What are the options businesses have, and how are you approaching that?
So like most other businesses, especially the ones that were deemed essential, we had to change our business model. Basically overnight, we put an online store. As rudimentary as it is, people can go to our website and fill out a form online where they list the products they wish to buy, and our staff will pick it for them, and they can pay for it over the phone. They pull up to the store and we drop it off in their trunk. So that's one of the options. We've also implemented free delivery service for seniors within a 10-kilometer radius of our locations. We extended a discount to frontline workers as well for the curbside pickup. So if they come to the store and they say that they can't wear a mask, then we also offer to have them tell us what they need, and someone will go in and pick it for them and bring it out to them. That was also always a challenge for us in the beginning. We were pretty firm on our policy from May 25th, where if you were not to wear a mask, you could not shop in our store. Again, because we had been impacted with some employees at our Maple location. And it's interesting. I mean, if anybody wants some nighttime reading to help them fall asleep, just read our comments on our Instagram post of our mask policy for May 25th. It's very interesting. Of course, there are people that cannot wear the mask, and we understand that. But there are some individuals out there that want to take full benefit of falsely claiming they cannot. And that's unfortunate because it actually puts the people that actually cannot wear it at a disadvantage, right?
Okay.
We were presented by this group called Fearless Ontario, posting, I mean, if anybody with just basic, graphic skills for a computer drafted up a card that said they were exempt, and we're, showing these at our doors, and we just refused them entry.
Right.
From what we understood, we are a private business on private property. We can deny access.
Right.
So we were just taking it case by case. Obviously, we feel there's a legitimate reason. And now that it's actually more clear, the guidelines, they say they can't wear a mask. We just ask them to maintain their 6-foot distance.
Right. Okay. Thanks so much, Mary. So alternative service delivery is really where people need to focus rather than trying to challenge people that don't wear masks. And I know Constable McCarty is going to be talking about the rights of the business as in terms of their own property. So I want to turn now to the issue of how to deal with difficult situations. And I'm very pleased to have Jan Krugil with us from the Downtown Yonge Street Business Improvement Association. He's part of the community engagement team, and they've been working for a number of years with local businesses to train them on de-escalation and providing tips and strategies on how to do that. So Jan, can I ask you to step in and talk about some strategies that our businesses can employ?
Yes, thanks so much, Karen. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jan Krogel. I am the team lead at the Downtown Yonge BIA, as Karen was saying, of our community engagement team. So since 2008, we basically have been on the street providing de-escalation for businesses who call as an alternative to calling the police. So we'll go into the business and basically deal with folks who are dealing with mental health and substance use issues. So in the context of mask wearing and COVID-19, this provides a new array of challenges that I'm going to get into by offering 5 basic tips that you can use in your business to hopefully de-escalate some of these situations and maintain control. Obviously, people are reacting in different ways to this. Some are compliant and some are not. Some people are having a particularly difficult time. And so we can't really control how people are responding, but what we can control is our own response and our own approach. So that's going to be the emphasis of what I'm going to discuss. So I'm just going to go right to tip number 1. And this is the approach we take. And I'm going to suggest that we try to go into the situation as much as possible with a sense of empathy or compassion for the person, as hard as this might be sometimes. Because I'm going to suggest that the way that we approach the person has the best chance, is the best indicator of how the situation will resolve itself. So that's how we can maintain control. So this entails basically approaching the person with a willingness to listen to where they're coming from. Obviously, this is sometimes easier than other situations, but rather than having a battle with the person over the merits of mask wearing or getting to a big political debate about it, or having, a binary choice of either you put on the mask or you leave, I'm going to suggest that approaching the person with this willingness to hear where they're coming from is very important, and to sort of convey that you have a non-judgmental attitude towards them, even if in your head you're thinking, oh, this person, I don't agree with them at all. But your staff's ability to stay calm and to convey calmness is going to make the person more likely to react in a calm way. So not shaming the person, not making them feel guilty, and not creating binary choices. Obviously, it's very hard to de-escalate someone when you're wearing a mask because they can't see your face and your expressions, which is so important to convey this kind of feeling. So you got to use more body language. So your eyes, giving a soft gaze, using open arms instead of crossing your arms, providing a good distance to the person, so not closing in on them and making them feel confined. A good tip here is to try to humanize yourself. So to say to them, you know, you can even agree with them and say, I don't like wearing a mask either. You know, I find it annoying, or I find it, you know, it bothers my breathing or whatever, but, you know, we're all in this together and I'm doing a job, you know, this is our policy here. And as much as I don't like it, you know, I'm trying my best. Can you help me out here? Or, you know, even point to the bylaw and say, you know, this is something I'm mandated to do. So, you know, these are some approaches, you know, for someone who's a little bit, you know, reluctant, who obviously hasn't escalated, and I'll get to that state in a second. So number 2, and I'm going to go over these as quickly as possible.
Great.
Trying to use the team as a whole. So, you know, trying to keep things calm, cool, and collected for you and your whole team. So basically you want to avoid a scene is the point here. So if the person's at the front of the line and, you know, they're making a big scene and a big crowd is gathered and stuff, that's basically what you want to avoid. So you might want to consider taking the person aside a little bit and saying, you know, let's talk about this. So you don't want to have that big, you know, where they're trying to make a big political statement or a big scene. Try not to make them the center of attention. But at the same time, you know, don't surround the person with all your staff and make it a big, you know, group on group kind of thing. If a group does form, consider having multiple staff talking to multiple people instead of just trying to address the whole group. So try to, you know, break it up into smaller discussions. This is in the more extreme case. And a more extreme case still is if someone is filming. Try not to engage with the camera or the fact that they're filming, you know, telling them to stop or get the camera out of my face. Try to focus on talking to the person as if that wasn't happening as much as it's possible. Number 3, using your team. So first, you know, am I the right person to deal with this right now? Am I in a calm state? How am I feeling? If you haven't slept or you're stressed out, you know, maybe tapping out and asking someone else to deal with it who's a little bit more calm. At the same time, if you're dealing with it and you've just had enough, you know, it's been going on for 5-10 minutes with the person and you're not getting anywhere, consider switching out, and maybe you need a different person on it. So either someone who is a little bit calmer at the moment, or sometimes someone who's a little bit more assertive, you know, and that person needs to hear a little bit of a more of an authoritative voice. And so consider switching out and having someone else deal with it. Make sure you're communicating with your team if the situation is escalating. So if the person is really getting, you know, escalated, you have someone backing you up, and then maybe you have someone getting ready to call 911. Number 4, Mary provided some really good examples of doing this. So provide the person with different choices and different solutions, so they have a variety of things to choose from. So, you know, maybe they can't enter the store, but you can provide home delivery. Maybe you have enough staff to go out and get a few items for the person and, you know, get them to pick it up at the curb. So providing those extra choices and solutions is very important. Obviously, having extra masks on hand is also good. You know, some people will genuinely just forget to bring it or forget to wear it. And so it's always good to have extras on hand. So finally, number 5, know when to call for help. You know, we've heard some real horror stories in Montreal and at Tim Hortons, you know, where these things have just escalated out of control. Mary, it sounds like you've had some difficult situations. So this is where, you know when to call 911 if the person is really becoming more escalated, aggressive, using threatening language, you know, they're using racist language, any physical contact at all, pushing or spitting or anything like that. Obviously, that's a 911 call right away. And then your main job there is basically, you know, as much as possible to contain the situation, to keep the situation calm. So you're never preventing someone, unless you have security, preventing someone from entering. Just trying to contain the situation as much as possible until police arrive. So that's it for me, and it's a good
Great.
segue into the next
Thank
segment.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. That was excellent. And that poster Jan has shared with us will be in the materials that we send out tomorrow. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise. And as you mentioned, it's a great segue to Constable McCarty. So if you'd like to share your feedback on dealing with the difficult situations. Constable McCarty, you're there?
Now, can you hear me?
Yep, perfect. Awesome.
Okay. Sorry about that. So when all this started and you sent out the request regarding the mask and having this type of meeting, I think this is fantastic. I went down the YouTube wormhole and
Oh no.
I started looking up the different incidents that have taken place, and it's unbelievable the amount of occurrences that are out there. I mean, some are in Canada, but a lot are from the States. Before I forget, I just want to mention that there was from the States in a place called Gelson's Market, where they handled it very, very well. It was an unmasked warrior with the cell phone out, demanding entry and being denied entry. And the management team, the staff, they handled it beautifully, where maintain composure, we're able to talk to this woman and just say, listen, like this is our policy. So what I am going to talk about today is going to be the Trespass to Property Act, and it's very short and sweet for us to deal with, especially as police. It's very succinct. It's one of the more succinct pieces of legislation out there for us. So I guess the next slide, please. Okay, so this is direct from the Trespass to Property Act and the occupier. So this is anybody who is in actual physical control of a property, and that could be the owner, it could be a manager, it could be an employee, a customer service rep, it could be anybody who has lawful possession of being at a store. A person who's has responsibility for and control over the condition of the premises or the activities that are carried on. So the actual offense for Trespass to Property Act is anyone who, without the express permission of the occupier, enters on a premises when entry is prohibited, or engages in an activity on premises when the activity is prohibited under this act. So as store owners, anybody has the right to deny entry to somebody, and you generally don't even have to give a reason. If you want to say no to somebody, lawfully you're able to say no. You're going to get some kickback from a customer if you do that. However, if you're able to articulate why, then there's a better reasoning, a better understanding for that person. Entry can be denied by any staff member, by management, and having the policies in place. So when we're talking about the wearing of masks, I think it's really important for stores to make sure that that policy is big and bold and clear right in front of everybody. So there's no way that I, as a customer, when I enter a store, I cannot miss the sign. It's got to be big, bold, bright, clear. And it's I mean, it doesn't have to be authoritative, but it's something that you want to make sure that everybody can see that you can't miss. So if somebody does enter the property, they're refusing to wear a mask, you can deny entry. If things start to get escalated and confrontational, then at that point, there's the option to call the police. Do your best to maintain the situation as much as possible, and a lot of it is a lot of those points that we just saw is just having compassion, understanding, and listening to people and being professional. The moment we start getting into an argument with somebody and saying, well, no, this is the way it's got to be, that starts to escalate somebody who feels that they are in the right. So this is just the basic of, I just broke it down to get rid of the legal aspect of it, of the writing, the jargon. It's unlawful entry, engage in a prohibited activity, and refusing to leave when told to do so. And then on the next slide, there's that's what the actual charges are under the Trespass of Property Act. So in this case, if somebody was in the store and they refused to leave, you contact York Regional Police. We'll show up. We'll deal with the situation. We'll do our best to de-escalate, escort the person off the premise. If that person continues to engage and refuses to leave, then we're going to start looking at maybe there is an arrest authority under the Trespass of Property Act. I would prefer not to go that far because that's going to be an extreme level. But sometimes that's what's required. I think that for anybody who's in a situation where they're dealing with somebody who is aggravated or confrontational because of the mask policy, if you need to call us, you call us, and we'll do our best to get there as fast as we can. Oftentimes when the police show up, that is a quick de-escalator, more often than not. I mean, sometimes people see the uniform and it can escalate somebody, but for the most part, 95% of the time, 99% of the time, as soon as there's a couple of police officers in uniform with police cars and they show up to a scene, it's a quick de-escalator of a situation. Next slide. So that's the first thing. I would just want to make sure that everybody knows that it's okay to call the police. It's not bad. You're not making a mistake. You're not bothering us. It's okay to call the police. That's what we're here for. Our job is to help the citizens in the community and to make sure that everybody is safe. If it's a non-emergency situation where somebody's confrontational, but you're not quite thinking, okay, it's a safety situation, you can contact our non-emergency line, and it's 905-895-1221. If it does escalate into an emergent situation where there's threats being issued, potential for physical violence, then absolutely that will be a 911 call, and we will get there as fast as possible. If you are dealing with a person who is becoming confrontational, belligerent, possibly physically assaultive, and you're calling York Regional Police, the physical description of a person is essential for us. And every detail that you can relay to our call taker, who then relays that information to the responding officers, is crucial. It could be, it's just every piece of detail about a person we want. The type of vehicle that they're driving, license plate, is a high priority for us, because then that will lead us directly to the person if they happen to leave the store prior to our arrival. At least we can track them down and have a conversation and hopefully come to a resolution that way. And is pretty much it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. So we're going to pivot quickly to Julia Seppa from Seppa Media. And this was something that was brought to light in speaking with Mary D'Addario. She was so focused on her business and her staff and implementing the policies as an essential business. She wasn't quite prepared for the social media storm that followed, which was quite interesting. And you heard Mary say earlier, if you want some interesting reading, just go read their Instagram feed. So from that perspective, we asked Julia if she would consent to share with us just some tips and strategies for, dealing with the online aspect of this, where there might be pushback or somebody not quite willing to, do an in-person confrontation. So Julia, would you step in and help us?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Karen, and thank you to the Chambers for inviting me today. I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see that? Yes, thumbs up. Thank you. So let's talk about dealing with online comments, and in our narrative today, criticism. A little bit about me. My company is called Supa Media. I help businesses tell their stories. And I do that in a variety of different ways through social media, video production, online media, web, newsletters, etc. So as business owners, we all know the importance and value of being online through our web presence, newsletters, live video, pre-recorded video, and social media. There are many benefits. Social media is great for immediacy. You can post messages very quickly, very effectively, and you can change and update that message very quickly. The engagement with customers and potential clients is priceless. You have the opportunity to create dialogue, build relationships and trust, and eventually convert sales. There's also a wonderful visual component to online media, photography and video and graphic design, as we mentioned. And of course, advertising. You can advertise your business, your promotions online very cost effectively, if not free. In March 2020, that's when COVID hit. It's like before COVID, after COVID. Many businesses turned to online and social media platforms to communicate business messages, hours of operation, how we as business owners were reacting to the changing news, and what customers needed to know about any new developments or changes. With my own clients, we crafted specific COVID-19 and pandemic messaging, policies, and we executed these messages in a variety of different ways and on different platforms. It's important to know that the messages that you communicate online are the same messages that are being communicated in person. You really want to create a synergy and a cohesiveness so the experience that a customer would experience online, or the message that you're parlaying online, is the same as what's happening in person. I'll use the example of a mask. If you're posting that you're wearing masks in the store and a customer goes to the store and there are no masks wearing, then that's doesn't match. Unfortunately, there's always negatives, especially when it comes to media, and social media is not exempt. And I'm sure many businesses like Mary's can attest. That immediacy that I mentioned makes for some mixed messaging. And in the case of COVID-19, news was changing daily, if not hourly. And different groups of people, different associations were giving us different messages. So our message online was being changed too. So that could cause some confusion. Sometimes there are errors and mistakes made from a business perspective. Absolutely. We mentioned engagement. Engagement is wonderful. Hurtful and hateful comments are not wonderful. There is a demand for social media. And when I say there's a demand, when someone posts a comment, there is an expectation from the commenter's perspective that the business is going to respond quickly. And if that business doesn't respond quickly, there's a bit of tension created online. And that can cause some broken relationships, potentially an unfollow or a loss of a client. You spent lots of time and energy and potentially money harnessing and nurturing these relationships online, and it could disappear very quickly. And of course, negative reviews. People go on the internet and on social media more to post negatively than to post positively. So just keep that in mind. This is all known as digital drama. It is a real term, and it can hurt businesses large and small. So as we've already learned from Yan and YRP, we need to integrate these de-escalation techniques, these in-person de-escalation techniques, into our communication plan. This is a mask. It looks like a hamburger or a hot dog, I'm told, but it is a mask. So as we all know, mask wearing is mandatory in all public places in York Region. There is a majority who is complying with this bylaw. And then there are a few who disagree and have taken their frustration and their opinions online. So what do you do? How is your business equipped? I want to think about how you are handling your messaging as we enter into phase 3. In the online realm, business owners, we need to be communicators, marketers, salespeople, customer service managers, and now social media managers as well. So when you're creating your messaging, think about all the different platforms you can post your message so we create that synchronicity on your Google business account, through videos, on your website, through social media, as well as in person. Focus on the positive. This is a very trying time. It's a stressful time for both consumers and employees. Focus on the positive. Create messaging that is reflective of your brand. Show kindness and compassion just like you would in person. I want to go as far as being very brand reflective, even in your social media graphics and the font you're using. Be mindful that it works with your brand. You're not yelling at customers with your graphics. Okay, so you get the negative comment. What do? Well, you panic immediately. I'm going to, and you're probably going to want to respond right away. I'm going to tell you not to do that, just like you wouldn't do that in person. I'm sure the police will agree. Breathe, pause. You can craft some messages in your notes or on Microsoft Word if you don't already have these messages generated. Think about what you really want to say and avoid being a keyboard warrior. This can come off being defensive, and you don't want to do that. I would also vet these comments with someone else, whether it's someone on your communications team, a partner. I vet many of my clients' comments, so just really take a pause and think about what you want to say. Be honest, be understanding, be positive, and be transparent. But please reply. So as we've worked hard to build and form these relationships online, it's important to communicate with your loyal following. We've established this relationship. You want to continue that relationship. Validate the feelings of the person who is posting. Now, I put an asterisk here because I don't believe in engaging in abusive conversations. Take it offline if possible. Very standard responses. Thank you for your suggestion. We are sorry this has been your experience. We understand. Thank you for your suggestion, Julia. I would love to chat with you further about this. Please email me at, give your email address, your phone number if you'd like to. Take it offline where possible. If someone has left a nasty comment, you've engaged and you've said, contact me, and they have not contacted you, you can go back to that original comment and say, Dear Julia, we have tried to reach out. If this is still a concern, please feel free to reach out. Thank you for your support, if you'd like to say that. Offer alternatives, which just like in person, you can offer those alternatives online, curbside pickup, online ordering, free delivery. I want you to remember that we are all people behind a business. And a lot of businesses, when they're posting online, use stock photography, inauthentic images. We're not seeing the human and the person behind the brand. So use real photos of your staff. Have videos from your own manager or your own owner. Positive testimonials from customers. Thank you notes from employees saying, thank you to everyone for wearing a mask because I feel so much safer coming to work. These all go a really long way to share our compassion and our understanding, and great techniques for your content strategy as we enter phase 3. A quick note about emails and direct messages. Many businesses will say, please email me or direct message me. This is still online. So this can still be screenshotted and it can still be shared, as we've seen many, many times, even in the last week. So where possible, you can have the direct message where you're giving your phone number. To censor or not to censor. So as someone who owns a channel, you have the ability to block comments, delete comments, filter comments. I would encourage you not to do this. So we talked about how important this dialogue is on social media. You can't have a dialogue if you've censored out your audience. And by censoring out the bad, you're also censoring out the good. So I would focus on creating those positive dialogues and that positive exchange. Nobody likes to be silenced, and they will find another way to get to you. So even if they've had a bad experience in person, they will go online. And so really address the issue as opposed to just quieting them or ghosting them. Again, sexist, racist, hateful comments need to be removed. If I were to get a sexist or hateful comment, I would immediately delete that, but then I would acknowledge it. And I would say, we have received this sort of comment. As a business, we do not stand for this type of behavior. We will not tolerate hate on our online media, something like that. Don't feed the trolls. This is a phrase commonly used in online forums. Trolls are real or fake people, robots, who go out of their way to make people's lives difficult. I've been a victim of a troll. They're not constructive. They don't really want to make life better. They just want to make your life difficult. So if you've gone ahead and you've had that first initial exchange and it's a polite and respectful one, but it keeps escalating, I would encourage you to disengage. And you don't need to put yourself out there that way. Take the higher road. Create a social media plan as a business that clearly states your rules and terms of engagement, similar to what you would have in person. You would never allow someone to come into your place of business and verbally attack a customer service representative. Same rules apply online, and indicate that. And then lastly, this is probably the hardest part, is try not to take it personally. This is our business, I know. This is what we live and breathe for, and we've worked so hard for. But it too shall pass. Take the time to try and move forward. Keep posting messages of encouragement, kindness, and sharing the good things that your business is doing. And eventually, it will kind of just shift. I want to thank you all for your time. If you need to reach me or you'd like to reach me, talk about your business reputation management, my contact information is on the screen, and I'll put it in the chat as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julia. That's amazing information. And a quick suggestion too is to pay attention to your Google listing. A lot of people are checking, they're Googling the businesses to see if they have changed hours or what their policies might be. So make sure you update that if you've got different policies. I want to just invite anybody to share any questions you might have. We're limited on time, but please do send the questions. If we don't have time to address them right now, we commit to getting an answer to you. The first one I think is for Dr. Genesove. It's from Jasmine. She's a private office with a public showroom that is currently closed. How do we navigate mask wearing with our staff? If we keep our showroom closed, are our staff required to wear masks at all time or just within confined space? Could you maybe address that, Dr. Genesove?
So if you have your space there that's only staff and there's no access to the public, so that doesn't require mask wearing under the instructions.
Okay, great. And so if they do open their showroom, do they need to then have the masks when dealing with the public?
So in that public indoor space, they should be wearing masks when dealing with the public, unless they have a specific barrier, for example, a plexiglass barrier that separates them from the public. Okay,
great. So I don't have any more questions in the chat. I'm just going to give people a minute in case they're typing. Just a reminder that we will be sharing these informations and the slide decks by email and the link to the recording to all the participants. And you are more than welcome to contact us if you do have a question that you would like answered. I have another one from Mary. Are food handlers okay to wear visors and not masks? I guess that's Dr. Genesove.
So it's if you're looking in specifically in a workplace where you only have workers, then in that situation, the Occupational Health and Safety Act applies, or there may be food handling requirements apply, and you have to apply those. In situations where you have both requirements for food handling and masking, then both would be required, the mask and the shield.
Okay. And a clarification on the earlier question, if you have a plexiglass barrier between, I guess, an office space and a public space, does a plexiglass barrier negate the necessity for a mask for your staff?
So under the instructions, it wouldn't be required if there's a plexiglass barrier that separates staff from the public. But again, it's highly recommended that the mask be worn anyhow, and that all the other hygiene measures be in place. So I would it may not be in the instructions specifically, but it's certainly recommended.
Okay. We have another question from Jen. She said, Dr. Genisov mentioned that visors do not replace masks, but many workers are wearing visors. Are they not as safe?
So in the instructions, there has to be a specific face mask or face covering. So where the instructions require a face mask or face covering, a visor or shield alone would not meet the requirements of the instructions.
Okay, got time for one last question about restaurants. So what about masks and trying to eat food and drink in restaurants now that they're open?
Well, so there are situations when people are allowed to remove masks for the patrons in a public space, public indoor space, and that includes while they're eating.
Okay, great. I see we're at time. There's a couple more questions. We will follow up with Dr. Genisov on those questions and get you information back. There's one from an electrologist and cooks in restaurants. So we'll make sure to provide that information. I want to thank all our speakers for sharing their time and expertise with us today. I hope you found it very informative. And please do let us know if you want to have any issues addressed in the future. We'd be happy to look into it and see if we can put a webinar together. So many thanks to all of you for participating, and we look forward to seeing you at another event shortly. Have a wonderful day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.